Hi guys, and welcome to the Magic Show. In this video I'm going to show you what you can do with meta information. So here I have an app. It was created in 2 seconds. It has all of these components. Here's an actor component, allowing me to filter, for instance, sort, and create new items. Thomas Hansen, at which point we can probably find me here, and it allows me to delete items and update items, of course. So it's basically got all of the 4 basic CRUD operations for every single table in my database. And it also, to some extent, automatically takes care of typing for me. For instance, if I try to create a new item of type rental, then the rental date happens to be date time. So the system automatically recognizes this and uses the correct typing for me automatically. Now the app was created in 2 seconds. In order to understand how, you must realize that it's all about metadata. You see, what Magic does behind the scenes is that it first invokes some SQL commands towards my database that retrieves meta information from my database. For instance, now I'm currently using the Sakila database and I'm executing show tables here. Right, so this shows me every single table in my database, and if you look carefully at all of these tables, you will recognize them in the file menu here. Actor address category, etc., etc. Then it iterates through every single table and describes the table, giving me meta information such as database type, whether or not it's a part of the primary key or not, whether or not it has a default value or not, etc. Now, this, of course, results in this. So the form you're looking at now is dynamically created. You can find it underneath Magic Generator here, by the way. Now, this form is automatically generated according to the meta information that my database publishes, allowing me to select my database and then select my tables. And then, of course, here you recognize, okay, this is a part of the primary key, it has a default value, yada, yada. And then this form again allows me to override. For instance, maybe I don't want to create a delete HTTP endpoint. Maybe I want to add caching for the get endpoint. Maybe I want to log delete invocations. Maybe I want a different URL for my HTTP endpoint. Maybe I want to change the default authorization on the create invocation, etc., etc. Then it allows me to inform which fields I want to submit to which CRUD endpoint, right? So when I click Crudify all tables here, basically, module already exists. What it basically does is that it creates code for me, 3,130 lines of code to be specific, which again ends up inside of my web server, in my backend, inside of the modules folder, inside of the Sakila folder. So every single file in this folder was dynamically created when I clicked the Crudify all tables. And in fact, I can prove it by deleting this guy. Now it's gone. If I go back here, Crudify all tables, and then I refresh this page, then I open up the modules, you will see that I now have a Sakila folder, even though I deleted it. And here you can actually see the files, and these files are just hyperlambda files, exposing a bunch of meta information. Here you can even see caching being added to it. Now, of course, this again results in me having access to meta information about my HTTP backend. And this meta information, of course, I have exposed over this particular URL, allowing me to invoke it and retrieve, okay, here is the URL for the crypto invocations count HTTP endpoint. Here's the verb it's using. Here are all the arguments I can supply to it. Here you can see the authentication required to invoke the endpoint, the description, etc., etc., etc. Here's the output it produces. Produces one output count, which is of type long, etc., etc. And of course, this endpoint returns information about every single endpoint in my system. In fact, including itself too, for that matter. So this invocation to this endpoint basically becomes what you are looking at here, right? So if I choose a different database, I will have different tables, right? Because I have different tables in the Babelfish database. As you can see, obviously, here I have languages and translations. Okay, let's do languages, execute, whoops, execute. And here you see the columns I have in languages. If I do translations, you will see different columns, right? And so on. So that's the internals of how magic actually works. And that's what you can actually do with meta information. Yet again, I want to emphasize this app was created in literally 1 second, as you could see for yourself. And in fact, if we go to our Crowdifier here and we click the front end, we select the template, we type a name, how the app can supply an optional copyright notice. We can select our modules, can click to select individual components within that module, etc. When I click generate now, I get a zip file. This zip file is an Angular project, Angular version 11, basically containing this. So this is the content of this zip file actually. And that is the amount of power you get once you have meta information. And of course, Hyperlambda being a meta information programming language allows you to retrieve meta information about your database and your endpoints and your application to an extent which is probably incomprehensibly large compared to any other types of platform frameworks and programming languages out there. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.